Hi everyone, this is Kriti Shastri and you're listening to the Conscious Core podcast. Today I have none other than Dr. Charlie Cartwright. He's a human influencer. He talks about employee engagement. He talks about how to maximize the potential between an employer and an employee so that both can benefit and coexist together to a better future. He's also specifically interested in giving someday sermons, and there are various nice sermons that he gives in between. So I present to you Dr. Charlie Cartwright, and over to you, Dr. Charlie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be a part of the podcast today and to speak with all of you. Thank you for tuning in.
Yes, thank you all of you to be with us. And today we'll be talking about different things together, but one of them definitely is employee engagement. So to begin with, I would like to ask him how to maximize the potential of an employee while, especially during the pandemic, how can it benefit them?
It's a huge topic, and it should have always been important, but now it's more important than ever. I know in the United States we're experiencing what they call the Great Resignation. More people are voluntarily leaving their jobs, quitting their jobs than ever before because during the lockdown, people had a lot of time to think.
Right.
And realized that they weren't really happy with their employer, where they were employed at, the teams. So as leaders within an organization, it's important to create an environment where people feel welcome, feel valued, and where they can thrive. And that's what employee engagement is all about. And as leaders, we can create that environment. And there's so many aspects to it, but the foundation of all of it is something I found in my research, and I'm a big researcher, and everything that I talk about is really based whole or in part on science and research that I've uncovered about human behavior and how people are wired. And there's a study that was conducted by the Mercer Group several years ago, and they wanted to understand what are the most important things to employees in the workplace. And so they just didn't study here in the United States. They went all over the world. They visited all four hemispheres. They went to 22 different countries.
Oh, wow.
And they put together a top 12 list on what's most important to employees. And I was shocked at one thing. As you can imagine, money was always on the list, but it was no shock. But it was shocking to me that money never finished higher than number 8. But the biggest shock that I received was that the number one thing the employees want at work is universal. So India, Japan, China, United States, UK, Australia, Canada, Mexico, Africa, number one was respect.
Right.
It's number one. And so anytime a human being, regardless of their nation, regardless of the background, regardless of their gender, their age, if they feel disrespected, it's a problem. Mm-hmm. So we need to always make sure that we create an environment where respect is at the top.
Right. And along with respect, I think they love when you give them that, think that, even if it's a small decision, you make them involved in it.
Yes, it's big. And I have a success formula that I created based on my research, and empowerment is one of those where you're involving your employees in decisions, you're involving your employees as much as possible, and there's 4 magic words that you can say to them.
Oh, wow. Let's listen to that.
What do you think?
Okay.
What do you think?
What
right?
do you think?
Yes, what do you think? And then that involves them in the process. And even if their suggestions aren't accepted or something like that, the fact that they're involved and they feel like they're a part of how the company runs, how decisions are made, is really, really important. And I remember reading an article about the founder of Walmart, and he talked about how some of the most innovative ideas came from people that were stocking shelves.
Right.
And so he really involved all the employees, and now Walmart's this huge entity because of that.
Right. Yeah. Involvement plays a key role along with, those 4 magical words which you said. What do you think? Yeah. Nothing like it. So, definitely, when we talk about employee engagement and employee growth, all these things really work well. But suppose if one of your employees is going through a very bad time in his personal or her personal life, so what would be your suggestion to that person, or how would you ask the employer to tackle that situation?
It's a great question, and this is really where a lot of times connection happens, and we are able to really build loyalty with our employees, because when everything is rosy and fine, people don't necessarily need us. But when there is difficulty in their life, that's where an opportunity comes for a leader to prove that he cares about or she
Right,
cares about her employees.
right.
Okay? And so here's another piece of research. This comes from Willis Towers Watson,
Okay.
and they found the number one predictor on whether an employee chooses to be engaged, because it's a choice,
Mm-hmm.
is whether he or she believes that their supervisor genuinely cares about them as a person.
Uh-huh.
It's the number one predictor. And so for employees that are disengaged, only 18% believe that. But engaged employees, 96% believe it.
Right.
So it's a huge thing. So that's an opportunity to really show we care. And I remember this is really an important point, and especially in the pandemic, we're having we're probably going to more, unfortunately, we're probably going to more funerals
Right.
than we've ever went to. And one of the things that people will do in the United States will say this: well, if you need anything, just call me. Let
Right.
me know. Well,
Right.
people are consumed by grief
Uh-huh.
and all the things they have to do to make these arrangements. They're not going to call you. They're
Mm-hmm.
consumed. So my response to leaders is just show up.
Right.
If you show up with water, it'll be consumed. If you show up with food, they'll eat it. Just show up. Don't ask. Just show up.
Right.
And I remember one time we had lost a coworker, and so we were cooking meals for the family and taking turns within the office. And I remember after about a month, uh, the wife said, "You know what? The freezers are full, the cabinets are full. Thank you so much, but we just can't accept any more food." Well, that's fine now. But
Yeah.
we let them tell us, but we showed up. We didn't ask them
Right.
if you need this. You already know they need it.
Yes.
So just show up and be
Instead of
helpful in
asking.
whatever way you can.
Just show up instead of asking. Yeah, that
Yes.
makes more sense.
Yes.
Wow. So it was so nice that, whatever people could do in the pandemic for the others. And that's how I think we realized that we are so connected, even though, uh, we weren't, in amidst pandemic or amidst like some misfortune, we realized that, all people are so connected, and they should, think of each other. And it just comes naturally to some people. And maybe you're one of them.
It's one of those things I remember posting on my Facebook
Okay.
because people were afraid to go out. But the major services were still working, anything to do with the infrastructure, including grocery stores, of course. So I remember posting, hey, if anyone doesn't feel safe or comfortable going to the grocery store, you could message me privately. I will go pick the groceries up for you, and I'll leave them on your porch
Right.
and let you know. And no one took me up on it, but I got several notes thanking me for offering.
Wow.
Because no one wants to admit, hey, I'm afraid to go out, maybe. But if we let them know, hey, I'll take care of that for you. I'm 100% healthy. I'm not in the high risk group. I'm comfortable with where I'm at with the immune system. I'm good. I'll go out and do those things if there's things like that, or run errands for them. And so there's just so many little ways that we can be a good citizen or a good neighbor in the community, because we're all in this together.
Right.
And I have this room. This is where I shoot my podcasts,
Okay.
and or have video conferences and things like that. And everything is here.
So, what podcast it is? It is Dashcam Wisdom. Is it Dashcam Wisdom? Okay. Okay. So So I'll just introduce that as well to our guest. Right. So, what is Dashcam Wisdom all about?
So it's interesting. So I was making LinkedIn posts or Facebook posts, and it was just two-dimensional content where there was an image and then I'd have a motivational quote and maybe say a few things about it. And several of my friends, because I'm a professional speaker, said, hey, you should make videos. You need to get on videos. You come across on video.
You're
And I didn't
very
want
good
to do
at
it.
it.
Thank you. And I didn't want to do it. And, I was nervous and just felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then you remember during the pandemic, we had a lot of social unrest here in the United States and police. And again, I'm not excusing bad police work at all, because we do have bad policemen. But I know that that's a small percentage. It's not all of it's a very small percentage, but what happens is they get painted, all the police officers get painted with this broad brush.
Yes.
And I didn't think it was right. And so many people, and especially in the African American community, were really saying a lot of bad things about the police, and I just couldn't stay silent. And because I knew it wasn't true. And so I made a video about it.
Okay. I
And
think
my
that was
experience with the police,
first video.
it was my very first one. And it did, I think the last time I looked at it, it did like 15,000 views.
Oh, wow.
And I was just sitting on my front porch. And then I made another video and it did thousands of views. And so I was talking to one of my cousins, and he was in a social media marketing company, and telling him about, hey, I'm negotiating studio time with this friend of mine. I'm going to go there once a month and shoot these videos. And he's like, listen to me. He said, we have a state-of-the-art studio. He said, we've got 8 camera angles, lighting, microphones. And he said, there's a 15-year-old girl in Atlanta sitting on her bed in her bedroom kicking our butt because it's content. It doesn't matter what all that other stuff. And I said, well, where should I shoot them? He said, shoot them in your car. I was like, okay. So I shot a couple in my car, and then one of the people said, hey, I love your Dashcam wisdom. And it stuck.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I wish I said I'm the genius that came up with that name, but I'm not. So one of my followers said it, and I said, oh, here's another edition of Dashcam wisdom, and people love that. And then I wear different T-shirts, and a lot of times I'll tie the message in the T-shirt into the message, and then so people actually will send me T-shirts now. And I actually have a small line of T-shirts, Dashcam wisdom. And so it's been fun, but I just felt like there was so much negativity that I wanted to just put positive information out. I just want to put positive vibes out, because if we sit back and let the negative people dominate, that's the only voice people hear. So I was like, I'm going to put positivity into it, and I didn't know what it would do, but it's been very successful.
Yes. Acha, I wanted to know, what does Dashcam wisdom completely mean? I was wondering. So wisdom, I
Yeah,
understood.
so the dash is it's my phone sits on the dash of my car.
Oh,
The cam, so that's the dash. The cam is my camera, and the wisdom are things that I say. So it's Dashcam wisdom.
okay.
It's
So,
got its own hashtag now.
yes. Right. So I saw those T-shirts which you were wearing. Some were like of belief. So that video in which you were talking about belief, what was it all about?
Yes, and so that one about belief was just how important it is for us to believe in ourselves. Okay, and until we have self-belief, it's really hard to be successful or to sustain any level of success, because deep down we don't really believe in our abilities or our skills, or we don't belong. And so it's so important to cultivate that individually. And just like a plant or a flower, if you put that plant or flower in the right environment, it will bloom, it will flourish. But if you put that flower in the wrong environment, it won't. And so if I take a rose from Kansas and try to grow it in the North Pole, it won't grow. There's nothing wrong with the rose, though. And a lot of times as individuals, we'll be in a situation that's not working out, and we blame ourselves instead of saying, I'm not in the right environment. I'm not in the right job. I'm not in the right company. I'm not in the right relationship. I'm not in the right neighborhood. And then we change our environment, and then our outcomes change completely. And so we need to put ourselves in an environment where people celebrate us and help us to believe in ourselves, because I believe every single person that's watching this has a gift. They may or may not have discovered their gift, but everyone has a gift. And once you figure out what that is, then your life really improves and you really impact the world in a meaningful way.
Right.
And there's many, many gifts out there, and I don't think anyone's gift is better than anyone else's, but we all have a gift. And so part of the mystery of life, one of the puzzles, is finding out what your gifts are or gift is. And I had trouble with this. And a friend of mine had a long conversation with me about it, and he says, your problem is you're good at a lot of things. He said, I'm not good. I said, I'm only good at one thing. So he said, so that's my gift. He said, but you're whatever you do, you tend to be pretty good at it. But he told me, he said, here's where your gifts hide. Our gifts hide in plain sight. He said, it's easy for you. There's something that's easy for you, and other people just rave about it, make a big deal about it, but you don't think it's important because it's so easy for you. That's your gift, hiding in plain sight. And so when I would speak, people would, oh, this is an amazing speech. I really liked it. And I thought, oh, it was not that good, or it was no big deal. What's a big deal to them? Well, that's my gift, is being able to connect and communicate with people at a deep level. So once I embraced that and then started to believe in myself and my gift that I was given the gift, as we all are, then things really took a turn for the better.
Right. So we got to understand another thing, that is believe in your gift and believe in yourself. Sometimes because of social conditioning, or maybe because of the way you have been grown up, you don't realize that there's a gift inside you, and kind of that gets layered down due to various reasons. And it's very difficult once you've grown up to figure out that gift again. But I think in the pandemic, most of us has realized what our gifts are, and we're working towards it. And if you've not yet realized, then figure it out, because life, you need to figure it out what your gift is. That will come naturally to you, as Dr. Charlie said. It will just come naturally to you. You don't have to work for it. It will just come on its own.
Yes, 100%. You look at in the wild kingdom, whether it's a hawk or a falcon or a bear, they know what their gifts are. A lion, they know what their gifts are. They don't doubt them. They just are them. And so that's so important for us to really understand that we are all given a gift, so that it helps us survive and it helps us interact in a way that's positive for the world, makes the world better. Simple things. It could be simple as, some people are gifted in lawn care, right? Gardeners.
Right.
There's people that are gifted in strategy. You see it all the time in social media, or people are really gifted with writing,
Right.
or with music. And if you believe in your gift and let it out, don't be afraid to show it to the world, you will find, your audience will find you. And one of the examples, I remember talking to my daughter about this, my oldest daughter.
Okay.
Because, you're younger, you're worried about acceptance, all these things. And if you look at the most popular musical album that's ever been recorded, and for a while it was Michael Jackson's Thriller, and then I think the Best of the Eagles, this band passed it within the last few years. But it was around 100 million copies sold. That's the most popular album ever. But what I told her is, well, here's what you have to realize. That means 7.8 billion people didn't buy it. Okay? So we're so worried about what everybody thinks. You don't need everybody. You need your small segment that is in your tribe that appreciates your gift, and you'll be more than happy, and you'll do very, very well. You just need a small number. And so when we worry about what everyone thinks, we don't need to worry about what everyone thinks. Find your niche, and the people will find you.
Right. And this is very important. We need to, stop thinking what others are thinking and just work on ourselves.
Yes.
Because if we start thinking what others are thinking, they will pull you down to what level you cannot even imagine. So
Yes.
it's better to focus on yourself rather than what others are thinking about you.
There was you can find this story if you Google it. You can find this story.
Okay.
But when the Beatles first were starting out, there was a record executive that told them that they weren't any good, that they couldn't play. The Beatles. Okay. And thankfully, they didn't listen to him. But he actually told the Beatles they can't. They weren't good. And it's unbelievable. An expert, of course, right? So we just have to understand that. And I remember I'm a big superhero fan, so I love all the Marvel universe and all the superheroes. Spider-Man, Iron Man, all that. And so the gentleman that created Spider-Man, when he took it to his boss told him that was the worst idea ever.
Oh,
He's like, don't you know anything about superheroes? People don't like spiders. Superhero can't be a kid. It can't be this. It can't be that. Now Spider-Man in this last movie has been hugely successful. What if he would have listened to that person? Then we wouldn't have had that genre of superhero figures. So it's just amazing. You just have to believe in your gift, and then it will work out.
yeah. Even I've heard about a lot of authors while they were writing it, people have rejected their scripts like anything. And that too, big companies have rejected their scripts. And then finally, once it got published, the books are doing like 200 million copies. I mean, you can
Yes.
imagine that.
Yes. Yes. I remember the gentleman that started Starbucks, and I have this equation on my board, and he talked to over 200 banks and lending institutions about getting the funding for Starbucks, and he got 217 no's.
Yeah, that's a
But he
quite
got
number of
25, yeah. But he got 25 yeses. I believe it was 25 yeses.
Okay.
And now that equals Starbucks.
Right.
How many people would quit after 20 no's?
Yeah, I
Or
know.
40 or 100? 217 no
Yes.
thank yous.
Big number.
And now all those people that said no thank you are sick because it's a multi-billion-dollar organization. They have 30,000 stores nationwide, worldwide, or
Worldwide.
30,000 Starbucks.
Yeah. So even after 217 rejections, he did not stop. And sometimes we stop after 3 rejections. I mean, yeah,
Or one.
or even 1. Right. Tell us something about, goal focus. Like, how can we focus on a single goal? If someone has a goal and, that's not coming the way it should come, and you're not giving time to it, or maybe you're not able to give time to it. So, what is that one can do for the same?
Yes, it's so important to have goals. And I believe it was Tolstoy that said that the 2 most powerful warriors are patience and time. And so you have to have, if you want to have the greatest warriors come to fight for you, that's patience and time. And so as you work, your work will start to take root, and you will figure out things. When you try this, that didn't work. And you try another angle, and you try another angle. It's like Thomas Edison with the light bulb. It's 10,000 light bulbs that didn't work before he patented the light bulb,
right.
and now we all have all these versions. And so you are continuing to pursue your goal, and you have to understand that there will be obstacles, many, and you just have to continue to get smarter, be more strategic, try again, try again, try again, try again, and then all of a sudden one day things start working. Because at first it feels like nothing. It's like going to the gym. If you go for a month, well, nothing's happening. And then you stay consistent, and all of a sudden people are saying, hey, are you working out? Hey, have you lost weight? So your clothes are fitting better. You got more energy. It takes time. But patience and time are essential to goal achievement.
Right.
They're essential. And
Right.
that coupled with hard work, strategically deployed, that's a winning combination.
Wow. A winning combination. So you got to hear that. What is a winning combination? We all know how to focus, but sometimes we will lack these 2 things, and that is, one is patience and the other is time. We don't believe in ourselves that it will happen, and we don't have that kind of a patience as well. So yeah, these 2 things are required.
Yes, I remember I've had speaking engagements somebody heard me speak 7 years ago.
Okay.
And now they change companies and they're on the committee and they say, oh, I heard this Dr. Charlie speak 7 years. So there's an incubation process for our goals to reach fruition sometime, to really bloom. And I always tell people this: if you look at an apple tree, the last thing to appear is the apples. It's the last thing to come. All the other stuff has to come. The root system, the tree's growth, the bark, the branches, the leaves, all these things have to happen. The last thing you see is the fruit.
Last thing.
It comes last. But people want to plant a tree and then go out tomorrow and pick the fruit. It does not work that way. That's not nature. And it's a law. It's a natural law. So understand, the apple is the last thing to come. Now we need to take care of the tree, and then one day, all of a sudden, we have all these blossoms, and now you've got an abundance of apples. That's life.
Right. Yeah, I was watching one of your videos, and it was about reflection in the mirror.
Oh, yeah. So that was a great one, and I remember a friend of mine was talking to me about this.
Okay.
And he said that we spend too much time looking out the window, and we should spend more time looking in the mirror at our reflection, who we are, and not worrying about what other people are doing or thinking or what's happening in the world. How can I improve me? How can I improve that person in the mirror? Okay. And then when we look in the mirror, who do we see? Mm-hmm. You know, do we see who we want to see? And are we proud of that person? Because that reflection in the mirror should be your best friend. Mm-hmm. Right. And if it's not your best friend, that's work that we need to do. And I'll talk to people that I coach about this quite often and say, hey, if you talk to your friends the way you speak to yourself, would they be your friends? And most people, oh, no, I would never say those things to my friends. Well, why do you say them to yourself? Right? So that really needs to be our best friend in the mirror. And when we have a great relationship with that person, ourselves, then that reflects out into the world. And the three, and I had to learn this over time, and it was the three of the hardest words I've ever had to speak.
Okay.
I looked in the mirror and said, I love you.
Oh.
It's not natural. At least to me, it's not natural. And I remember, well, I do. Do you? Right? You know, we love other people. We love our family. We love our friends. We love our communities. We love our nation if we live there. But how many people love themselves?
Yeah. It's
that
hard
should be
to see.
Very hard. And we look at it as selfish a lot of times. And at least in the United States, people look at that as selfish. But self-care is not selfish. And really, if you think about it, when you fly on an aircraft, they always tell you, in the event of an unexpected loss in cabin pressure, oxygen masks will drop from the ceiling. Put your mask on first and then help other people. But if you don't do that, you start helping other people, you'll pass out. And now you need help. So for us to be at our best with our families, with our friends, with our career, we have to take care of ourselves first, even in our worship.
Right.
If we have faith in a higher power, in order to worship well, we have to take care of ourselves
first.
You know, and it's actually written in the scriptures, right? Love your neighbor as who? As yourself. It's in there, but people skip over that. Well, I need to love my neighbor. Well, what else does it say? As yourself. It's right there. So and I've done this several times with workshops. Matter of fact, the last workshop I taught was the first time people had ever answered. I said, give me your top 3 priorities. People never put themselves, ever.
Oh.
And so for years, I've been doing it for 10 years. And 2 weeks ago, I had a group, 3 people put themselves in the top 3. And I was like, this is the first time it's ever happened. And it's so important because for me to be valuable, now that my kids are grown up, well, now I can really help them because I've got all this information about work, about school, about life I can share with them. So it would really be a shame if they lost me now when I can help them the most.
Right. Yeah, and this is also a very important aspect. We tend to forget it. Love yourself first, and it's not being selfish. It is being okay, fine. So whatever, and it's very strange how many people get up in the morning, see themselves in the mirror, and they smile or they laugh. That's very rare to happen, and you know it's very rare. They might be thinking, oh,
Yes.
another morning, and maybe thinking about someone else, but not about themselves. How to begin or how to start their day, that is also one of the aspect I think makes quite a difference.
Yes. People avoid the mirror in the morning. And you're right. So, or they say something negative about their appearance. And that's a shame. We've got to do better.
Right. So there was one thing, the last one that I would want to ask you, and it was about making mistakes. So, but what about making mistakes and growing, or how do people, when people go ahead and do one mistake, they're like, okay, now I'm not going to try anymore, or maybe they just sit down and then they just forget, okay, fine, I'm not meant for this, very early they just give up. So, what do you think? What do you suggest them to do?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that question because I struggle with this as a child, as a young adult, early adulthood. I struggled with it because I thought, hey, if I'm running into problems, if I'm failing here, then that means doing the wrong thing. I'm not good enough. I'm in the wrong profession. I'm in the wrong track. I really believe that. And I don't know where that thinking came from. It had to be somewhere in my childhood, but it's completely wrong. And that now I understand that failure is not the opposite of success, it's a part of success.
Yes.
Matter of fact, it's a prerequisite for success. No baby stood up and started walking. We fell and we fell and we fell and we fell until we kept going. And if babies were endowed with adult thinking, who would ever walk? People would be in these walkers because it's dangerous. I could hit my head and somebody hurt themselves. All these things, right? And so that is a part of it. So you have to understand that you're going to meet with temporary setbacks, temporary defeats. And it's temporary because you persevere. It's only true failure when you quit. And we mentioned the Starbucks story, 217 no's, right? He could have thought this is a terrible business model, or the Beatles were told that they can't sing and they can't play. If they believed that, then the world would have been deprived of one of the greatest bands ever and all that beautiful music that they made. So we just have to understand that that's a part of the journey. However, we need to learn from each attempt. Analyze it. How can I do better? What can I do better? Who can I do it better with? We've got to continue to evolve our approach. And then eventually, if we're persistent enough, patience and time take over, and then we achieve our success. But that is a major part of it, and just understand that that's going to happen and know that it's part of the journey and that it's necessary because it teaches you things. Failure teaches you things that success can't teach you. That's just the reality of it. You really dig deep down. You really understand what went wrong, and then you go about correcting it. So failure teaches us lessons that we wouldn't voluntarily learn.
Right.
And when we
Very
learn those things, those are some of the most valuable things that help us later in life. And for me, when I speak to leaders all over the world, actually, I'm speaking from all the research I've done, but I'm also speaking with 40 years of experience on all the mistakes I've made. And I can tell them, hey, when I was a young father, I made this mistake. Hey, as a young husband, I made this mistake. Hey, as a friend, I made this mistake before. And they're, and I can show them past, but I've been through the experience, so I can speak from experience. And then you couple that with education, it's very powerful. So really embrace those, even though it doesn't feel good. Embrace those opportunities because they're opportunities to grow and learn.
Right. So, I believe the same, the success curve in itself has failure within it. So
Yes.
definitely it's going to you're going to fail, and the learnings that you'll have with your failures is your wisdom.
Yes. And a friend of mine said it this way. He said, failure is always waiting outside your front door. He said, success is down the street and, and 3 blocks over, right? You're going to have to go to that. But failure is always right outside your door. It's right there.
Right.
And so you just have to understand that's the balance of things. But it's a great lesson and just a great opportunity to improve for all of us.
Right. So, um, with this, I'm almost coming towards the end of our session. There was one last thing that I was reading about, and people are these days, waiting for someone's approval. So I saw your video on that as well. So, what was that about? People nowadays, when they begin with some work, they would want an appreciation from others first rather than from themselves, or putting a stamp. Okay, someone is saying right, so let's begin with it. So yeah, I would please dig deep into this aspect, waiting for someone's approval.
Yes, and that's a trap, because sometimes you're never going to get that. There's certain people that will never give you their approval. So what you have to do is really look in your heart, right? In your mind, and hey, what do I want to do? What do I want to produce here?
Right.
And stop asking for permission to be successful. Stop looking for other people to approve, because the reality is that some of those people are never going to, for different reasons. They can't see your value, they can't see your wisdom, they can't see your gift, or they're jealous of all those things. That'll stop people too, trying to hold you back,
Right.
keep you back. And it's kind of it can be a little unsettling to know that, hey, I respect this person and they didn't believe in this, or they didn't believe I could do that. But that's where that belief in ourselves and not weighing too much on the opinion or approval of others for what we're going to ultimately do. Not letting people talk us, out of things, not letting people talk us out of our greatness. I remember reading an article about Oprah Winfrey, and it was an interview actually, and she was told that she wasn't good for television, that she wasn't good in television. She was told that.
Yeah.
And what if she would have believed it? We would have been deprived of one of the greatest shows. And look how many lives she impacted. Look how many millions of young women and adult women that she empowered. And not just women, people like myself. And without that voice, but she was told she wasn't good enough. And it's just not true.
Right.
It's just not true. So that's where there are just so many naysayers and are out there. And I remember, I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger that said that you have to remember something. He said, everyone pities the weak. He said, but jealousy you have to earn. And it's true.
Big point. Jealousy you need to earn. And I believe instead of looking from approval from others, why don't you self-approve yourself?
Yes, yes. And then the approval will come. It will come, because there are people that will genuinely appreciate your genuine efforts, your genuine gifts.
Yeah.
And that makes it all worth it, right? I always said that if you can positively impact the life of one person, that's a life well lived. But to do it multiple times, it feels good. And I think that for me, I know that we're not all, we all going to end up, we all die someday. That's just the reality of it. And so while we're here, to me, it's about making a positive impact on others in the world positively. And for me, I just want to, at the end of the day, it made a difference that I was on the planet. I just want to make a positive difference that I was on the planet. And that's my goal every day. And if we live that way as a global community, I mean, think about the world we could create.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, that would be like uh, a new, rise of a new era together, all together, where people are all together working for each other. I mean, that's how we started.
It is, and it's possible. It's possible. And so there's just so many different ways we can do it, each in our own way. And it just has a ripple effect.
Yeah.
It has a ripple effect. And so
It
that's the wonderful
multiplies
thing about it.
10 times or even more. People,
Yes,
I believe
yes,
good things multiplies faster than bad things.
they do. They do. And I think that there was, there's a guy I follow, a gentleman I follow on and we've become good friends over the pandemic. His name's Michael Ray. I don't know if you've seen his Smile Project Louisville.
Okay.
But Michael Ray is a great friend, and I actually physically got to meet him this past fall. And we have had many conversations, heart-to-heart conversations, and he was really out there making these videos, and his whole thing is just spreading, love and harmony. That's his thing, and smiles and love. That's what he spreads. And I was able to tell him, watching your videos, you gave me permission to do the same, right?
Wow.
And when we do our best to make the world a better place, we give other people permission to do the same thing, right? Even though I said we shouldn't be looking for permission for sure, we should just do it. But sometimes we need an example to say, oh, I can do that too.
You need a push.
And when we can be that example, it makes a huge difference in the world.
That is so true. We actually need a push sometimes, It's not a validation, but it's like, okay, I'm also somewhere capable of doing the same. So you get that push while you see someone else doing the same thing. Or maybe that
Yes.
kinds of, that kinds of give you a trajectory or, yeah, this is something I'm meant for doing. So that push, I think we need to find our own inspiration somewhere. It is not basically approval, but inspiration, that I would like to put it somewhere, that you get inspired. Okay, fine. I also love to do the same work.
Yes, absolutely.
It was lovely talking to you, Dr. Charlie, and I enjoyed every second of this conversation. It was delightful to have. I'm sure all our audience would love the same. They are delighted to watch and listen to you. And if you're interested more to listen to him, so you can listen to the Dashcam videos. They are supercharging. That is super powerful. In very few minutes, he can, really charge you up for the day. So look ahead for the same. I think it's there on the Apple podcast or Google podcast.
On LinkedIn.
Okay.
On LinkedIn.
It is
Yeah,
more.
that's the main place. There'll be some other avenues for it in the future, but right now it's primarily on LinkedIn. So I
But it's
appreciate
very
that.
impactful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really
So
enjoyed
I
it.
have got inspired from you to do the same, since I have not been lately posting any video on the LinkedIn. So I got inspired from you to do the same.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And it's been an honor to be on the show with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Charlie. It was, I think it was God's good timing that we could meet.
Yes, divine appointment.
Divine appointment. Truly. Thank you.